morning guys, and welcome. Today we are going to talk about something like a sample. So we are carrying a lot of oil and then we are doing a lot of bunkering. So what do we do with the samples? What happens is when we are carrying the cargo, we are doing sampling of that cargo. That samples are being tested, and some samples are required to be given to the consignee in your discharge port, and some samples stays on board. This is what happens in cargo operation. In cargo operation, sometimes you are required to do too many sampling. You have to do initial sample, you have to do bulk sample, then you have to do the composite samples. So slowly you will be accumulating a lot of samples on board ship. So today we will see where do we store these samples, and in these samples we are also going to include bunker samples because the ships are doing bunkering. So what do we do with these bunker samples and these cargo samples? How do we store them? How do we dispose them? So we are going to see that today. Requirements for storing these samples is that whenever you are storing these samples, firstly these samples are containing oil. Okay, these are the sample of the cargo or bunker. So you should not store these samples, cargo samples or bunker samples, in accommodation. So it should be stored outside accommodation, not inside the accommodation. The reason is because if for some reason if you have a spill, then you will have these vapors and you have a fire risk for accommodation. So it should be stored outside the accommodation. Secondly, then it should have a fixed firefighting system, so that in case of fire you can fight this sample fire, because these are samples, they can catch fire. So you should have some fixed firefighting system for these samples, and then you should have a protective place where you can store all these samples. Okay, you should have proper cabinets. It should not be like you're storing it in a cabinet and then it's unrolling or pitching, they are going to break. So we will see how these cabinets are made and how properly we can store them. That also we are going to see. And for bunker samples, you should store these samples away from direct sunlight. So it has to be a cabinet and then it has to be in some shelter. So you have to store bunker samples away from this sunlight. Then regarding the regulation for storing this, how long should you keep these samples on board? So for cargo samples, you are required to keep not more than 3 months, and it should be specified in your company's SMS also. They should have proper procedure when you want to dispose these samples. And regarding disposing these samples, for cargo samples, you can dispose these samples once the time is finished, say the 3 months period is finished. You can dispose this sample to your slop tanks or residual tanks, and then you can make some entries in your oil record book that you have disposed these samples in your residual oil tank. Same way for bunkers, the requirement is you have to keep the bunker sample till the time you have not consumed that oil. So if you have bunkered some oil, you have to keep the sample till the time that bunker oil is not consumed, or for 1 year, whichever is more. So you have to keep bunker samples for at least 1 year or till the time it is consumed. For cargo samples, it's about 3 months from the time you have discharged the cargo. So it will depend. Sometimes you are carrying multi-grades, you will have a lot of sample. So you have to keep disposing them, and then you have to make proper entries in your oil record books. So let's go ahead and have a look in a sample locker. How does it look like? We are in this sample locker for our ship, and this sample locker is inside this midship store. So you can show this door over here. So this is the midship store entrance. So we are inside this midship store now. Our sample locker is here. So you can show the full overview now. This is how the sample locker is. Then it has got a locking arrangement. I have opened the lock now so that we can have an access inside. And there is one more requirement that because you are handling with oil, so you should have MSDS and you should have PP equipment for this whenever you are handling. So we have got a box over here for PP box. So in this box we have got a visor, then we have got eye wash, and then we have got apron and gloves. So all these kind of things are there in this PP box. So these are the requirements. You should have these PP equipments whenever you have got some chemicals, oils or any other detergent which we are using on deck. So anyway, we are going to talk about the samples today. So this is the sample locker. It is always locked. I have opened this lock now. So let's open the sample locker. So this is how the sample locker is looking like on our ship. So we can see it has been divided very nicely rack wise, and on this side, left side of the rack, we have got bunker samples. On right side of the rack, we have got cargo samples. So we are segregating bunker sample and cargo samples, which is not mixed. So that is also a requirement. You should not mix your samples. It should be segregated. So our bunker samples are on this side, and then this side are the cargo samples. Now let's have a closer look to these samples, how they are stored. If we can see now, these samples are stored in glass bottles. So these glass bottles are very viable to get broken in case of rolling or pitching in rough weather. So we have got these rods, and then we have got these partitions, so that in rolling these bottles are not going to roll and crash into each other. So this is how the samples are stored, and we have got some spares samples space also, like you can see here. So this is also a requirement, that you should always have some spare space, so that you can accommodate more samples when you are going to do some loading operation. So if your sample space is full, this also goes against the requirements, and when you have inspections, you can have some observations on that. So you should always have some space left for the next cargo which you are going to load, and you should have some space for sampling. So same way, these are the bunker samples which are kept over here. You can see these are the small plastic bottles. So they have also been very nicely arranged and then stored over here. So this is how we are going to store our samples, and then we should also have the MSDS stored right next to the samples. So this is a MSDS sheet that we have got over here. So this can show, we have got the bunkers. This is the MSDS for bunkers. So we are keeping all the MSDS, and then we have got MSDS for cargo. So this is the record that we have got, how many samples we are taking, how many samples we are keeping, and then what do we do with these samples. And then this is the MSDS for the last cargo that we have got, say ULSD. So this is the MSDS for ULSD, and this is for gasoline. So this is our last cargo that we are carrying now. So this is how we will be keeping the samples. And then you have got a record over here, what all samples are there, and their MSDS is there. And I hope everybody understands what is MSDS. MSDS is Material Safety Data Sheet. It gives you all the, this MSDS is made in 16 sections, and it gives you a lot of information. But the information which we are concerned right here is that when it gets spilled on your body, or somebody digests it, or there is a spill, there is a fire, what do we do? So all that information is right here. So we can consult this, and then you can give the required treatment or the steps that is required. So this is how we are going to keep samples. So I hope we have seen this sample locker. Now we can have a look from outside also, how does this sample locker looks. So now we have come outside our sample locker, and this is our midship store, starboard side midship store, which we call it Simpep locker. So this is the locker inside which we have got our samples kept inside this, and this space is protected under fixed firefighting system of our ship. Whenever you are disposing these cargo samples or bunker samples, we have to make entry in our oil record book, or basically you have to have records that you have disposed these samples in the right way and you have not thrown it overboard. So what do we do with the samples? Say, I'll show you an example for entry regarding the cargo samples. So this is the entry over here. Normally you make under section O. So on this date, so we will make under code letter O, and then you will write like this, like the all old cargo sample disposed of into the ROT, and you will write the amount, how much you have disposed, and what was the total quantity of that tank after you have disposed that samples. And then you are going to sign date with your name and rank. So this is how you are going to make an entry in oil record book whenever you are disposing the samples. Same thing you are going to do when you are disposing these bunker samples also. Now seen how we store samples on our ship, and what do we do, how do we deal with the samples, how we generate the samples, how we keep the samples, and how we dispose of the samples. And this is how we manage our samples for cargo samples and bunker samples. And all the ships you will find the same procedures, only the difference will be what companies SMS require for the cargo samples or the bunker samples. If they want to keep it for some extra time, you can always do that. So these things we will have to reconfirm when you join your ship. You have to see what your company says, and that is what